Parshat Yitro. As the name suggests, we open this week's portion by reading about Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe, who hears everything that Hashem had done for the Jewish people, and he comes to the desert to bring Moshe's wife and his two sons to arrive with Moshe in the desert. Now, when he arrives, Moshe comes out to greet him, and he tells him everything that has happened. And once he hears everything that has happened, the Torah tells us, Vayichad Yisro, Yisro rejoiced, Al Kol HaTova, on all the good, Asher Asa Hashem Yisrael, which Hashem had done for Israel, Asher Hitziloi Miyad Mitzrayim, that which he had saved him from Egypt. Now, if we're talking about the Jewish people in plural, we would have expected the Torah to say Asher Hitzilom, who had saved them, not Hitziloi, who had saved him, but rather who had saved them. Now, some translations will say it, who have saved it, referring to the Jewish people as a whole. But in fact, the Torah is very accurate. What the Torah is referring to here, there were two things that Yisro rejoiced for. He rejoiced not only for taking the Jews out of, the Israelites out of Egypt, but also for his own redemption from Egypt, because we are told that Yisro was one of the advisors to Paro. In fact, one of the three advisors to Paro very early on when he asked, what should we do with the Jewish people? And he was one of the three advisors, and his response was to run away. There were two others. His response was to run away. He didn't want to have anything to do with this. He ran away, and he was saved from Egypt. So he thanked Hashem at this point, not only for the Jewish people being saved from Egypt, but also for his own personal Asher Hitziloi, which Hashem had helped. He recognized that now there was Hashem who had helped him run away, have his own exodus from Egypt. He spends time in the desert with Moshe, with the Jewish people, and he observes how Moshe is judging the Jewish people, ruling for the Jewish people. And he says to Moshe, Lo tov, this is not good. The way you're doing it is not good. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to wear out. For you to sit all day, everybody standing there and waiting for you, and all day, every day, you're sitting there judging, it's not good. And he advises him to set up the first judicial system, the concept of a judicial system where you have a pyramid of judges and courts. The more easier things are judged by lower courts, the more difficult things, higher courts. The most difficult thing is brought to Moshe, and that way it says you'll be able to manage everything. Moshe hears this, and he does actually do this. And Yisro says to him, look, if you do it, everything will be good. But he suggests to him that if there is something, they bring it to you. And Moshe responds and says, look, when they have something, ki elehem davar, when they have a matter, ba elai, one comes to me. And again, if it's talking about them, ki elohem, we would have expected the Torah to say they come. You know, if they have a matter, then they come to me to be judged, and I judge for them what the ruling is. But in fact, the Torah is again being very specific. Well, the Torah is saying that Moshe was responding to Yisro's father-in-law and telling him, giving him an insight as to how he judges the people. Ki elohem davar, if they have a matter, then by the matter comes to me. I don't look at the individual. I don't look at whether he's more important, less important. I simply look at davar, the matter by comes to me, and I sit and judge according to the matter is in front of me, not looking at maybe external influences, the type of person that they are, whether they're rich, they're poor, whether they're important or less important. And this is very significant. In fact, the story is told of a very great rabbi who, when he was asked to judge, to pass a judgment when two people had a disagreement, then in fact he would close his eyes. When they were in front of him, when he was hearing the complaints of each side, he would close his eyes. And he said it's because he didn't want to look at the individuals, but he wanted to concentrate on the complaints from each side, on what they were saying, not who was saying it. And in order to better do that, he would close his eyes and simply focus on the matter at hand. And this is very important, what Moshe was doing and what we need to do as well. Not look at the individual, but look at what that individual is saying. And that's what Moshe was saying that he was doing for the Jewish people. Nevertheless, Yisro says to him, look, this is the way you need to set up. If Hashem agrees, which Hashem did agree, and he says at the end, if you do this thing, then Gam Kol Ha'om Hazeh, all the people Al Makomo Yavoi V'Shalom will arrive at their place in peace. They will be at peace. They will be happy. Now, in rabbinic terms, how we qualify and define peace is by compromise. If there is a judgment, if there is a din Torah, there is a court case in Beis Din, then there is two ways of approaching it. There is either according to what the Torah says, or there is shalom, there is peace, where there is compromise, there is a pashara, a compromise between the two parties. Now that can only be done if it is unclear what the Torah says in this particular case, or the rabbis are unclear themselves about what the ruling is. Then they say, look, let's make a compromise between the two of you. And what Yisro was saying over here to Moshe is, look, there is a problem. If they know the absolute rule and one comes out totally victorious, then the other one's going to be unhappy. That's not proper peace. Proper peace is when there is a compromise. Nobody feels that they are totally hard done by. Moshe, he's saying, look, you know everything. You know the Torah very clearly, and you're giving direct rulings as to exactly what the Torah should say. There's no room for compromise. If you allow lower courts to deal with it, rabbis who are maybe not as educated as you are, they are educated in the basics, but they're not as educated in every single circumstance, then they will have to come to some sort of compromise, and everybody will go back to their place. Al Makomo, they will go back to their place. Yavoi V'Shalom, they will come in peace. There will be a peace that there is some sort of compromise, some understanding between the parties. And that's why he advised this system, and of course Hashem agreed to this system. Well, we come to the second part of this week's portion, and that is the giving of the Torah. We are told there's a whole preparation process, but I just want to pick up on one point. They came to Mount Sinai, and the Torah tells us very famously, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Har, and Israel encamped next to the mountain. And again, the Torah uses the singular, Vayichan, that individually, not Vayachanu, they camped, Vayichan, he camped next to the mountain. And Rashi comments on this, and he says, what this is telling us is that the Jewish people were Ish Echad Belev Echad, they were like one man with one heart, they were totally united, totally complete in a common purpose over here, they were all together as one. How did this manage to happen? Neged Har, it is because they were encamped next to the mountain. The mountain, the Mount Sinai. What happened with Mount Sinai? It was a very small mountain. And it was precisely because it was a small mountain that God wanted to give the Torah to the Jewish people on this mountain to show that you need humility. The Medrash tells us all the other mountains wanted Hashem to give the Torah on them. And one says, I'm big, I'm this, I'm that, and Mount Sinai kept quiet. It was a small mountain, he thought the Torah is never going to be given on me. And Hashem purposefully gave the Torah on him, on Mount Sinai, because it showed the concept of humility that is needed in approaching the Torah. And when the Jewish people encamped by this mountain and they saw this, they recognized that in order to have true unity, you needed to be humble. The mountain was humble, we need to be humble as well. And that enables there to be achdus, it enables there to be unity to the point that they can be Vayichan, and he, the entire Jewish people as one, encamped by the mountain. They learned the lesson of the mountain itself, which enabled them to be united as one, not to be arrogant, not to be patronizing towards each other. Because unfortunately, if there is arrogance, there cannot be unity. Unity can only be achieved with humility. We need to learn all of these lessons from this week's Sedra, from this week's portion, and hopefully that will enable us to be better people, to be more peaceful, more united people, which ultimately is the purpose of the Torah. Thank you for watching, keep watching, and wishing you all well.